Imagine a healthcare program that takes into account these genetic differences between individuals. To take into account these differences, researchers study data from many people from all over the world who are at different ages and different health status. They are then able to develop preventions and treatments that are specific for a group of people who share certain genetic variants. Such specific strategies may be more effective and have fewer side effects than more generalized ones. In the clinic, doctors can use these data to help diagnose rare genetic diseases. They can also select the best treatments for patients based on the genetic variants they carry, and even develop new treatments for diseases which currently lack effective treatments. If a program like this was in place and you decided to participate, what could you expect? Firstly, you may be asked to provide a blood sample for genetic testing. In addition, to determine the effects of any genetic variants, we would need to know more about your health. Some of this information may be part of your health records when you visit your doctor. We may ask for your permission to access this information. Finally, you may also be asked to provide information about your diet and exercise patterns. The data and samples that you provided would go through a process called de-identification, which involves removing certain labels that identify the data and samples with you. These identifiers include your name, NRIC, and address. Afterwards, the de-identified data would be assigned a code and stored on a secure server with restricted access. In the same way, any samples would be de-identified and coded, then stored in a secure facility that would be accessible only by authorized personnel. Only qualified researchers would be able to access the coded data. They would have to explain how they plan to use the data. A trusted group of people would make sure that their plans were ethical and scientifically sound before granting access. The researchers would access and analyse the data only on specific computers and could not download the data for their own use. If they violated these rules, they could lose access or even be prosecuted under Singapore law. Although the data would be de-identified, the process is reversible. This means that the data stored about you could be re-identified in certain circumstances by relinking it with your unique identifiers that were previously removed. For example, if you consented, the data could be re-identified to give you more information about your health, to add new data from your electronic health record, to withdraw you from the program, or to contact you for future studies. Once these actions were completed, the data would be de-identified again. There is a risk that this data could be re-identified without your consent by external parties. For example, many people in the US have shared genomic data publicly via genealogy websites. If someone gained access to the de-identified genomic data about you and could also view genomic data about your relative through a public website, he or she could compare both sets of data and re-identify you. Although Singaporeans have not shared genomic data publicly to the same extent, this could change in the future. Also, a determined hacker who managed to access the separate servers that store the data and your unique identifiers could re-link these pieces of information to re-identify you in the dataset. One of the major uses of the data is to find new, more specific treatments. For example, if researchers find a gene that causes a disease, they could then develop a medication for the disease that targets that particular gene. As part of developing new medications, researchers at universities often have to work with pharmaceutical and biotech companies and may need to share de-identified data from groups of patients with researchers at these companies. The company researchers would be bound by the same rules as academic researchers, including using the data only for a specific purpose, such as developing a new treatment. Sometimes doctors and researchers need to study genetic variants that are rare or that only occur in people from a certain part of the world. They need to share data with their counterparts at universities and hospitals overseas to get enough data to answer their questions.